Retsach Rabin, the murder of Yitzhak Rabin, Israel's democratically elected prime minister, is a day when we commemorate one of the lowest moments in Israeli history. But it's a moment where we can also learn important values about democracy. This is Gil Troy with Natan Sharansky in Jerusalem, learning about democracy. So I grew up as a little free child in the United States of America, going to Mary Poppins movies and singing I Love to Laugh. And you love to laugh, but you did it in prison, and you did it as a way of spiritual victory. When I think of all the days you were forced to fast, and all the days where you were only given a couple of pieces of bread and some tea, I can't imagine that you would ever fast.
Water.
Water. I can't imagine that you would ever fast again. And you not only fast on Yom Kippur and so many other Jewish fast days, but you've made a statement that you think that when we commemorate the murder of Yitzhak Rabin, the Israeli prime minister, we should fast on that day too. Why would we possibly want to fast on that day?
I didn't make a statement that we should fast. I simply started fasting on this day. And I hope the others will join. And I really did it a year after Yitzhak Rabin was killed. Already when it was the first anniversary, I was already fasting. Why? Because I saw very quickly how in this awful event in our history, when our leader was killed by one of us, how it turns into political event, how all these accusations of the left against right, that it is you who did it, and the right who says, no, it's all because of Oslo. And it was very upsetting. Not that there is something wrong with the political debate, but when we are turning the biggest tragedy which we face into political debate about Oslo. So, okay, 20, 30, 40 years after this, the history will decide who was right, those who are against Oslo, those who are for Oslo. But if the murder of Rabin is connected to this event, then it will lose any significance. On the other hand, I thought about Tzom Gedalia, Fast Gedalia, that almost nobody remembers exactly whether Gedalia was a good leader or bad leader, and what exactly was the reason. But the very fact that the Jews killed their leader, the rabbis then were smart enough to decide that deserves fasting. And as a result, 2,000 years after this, more than 2,000 years after this, people remember that such a crime happened and Jews killed their own leader. And I believe that should be something, even when all our political debates will be behind us and all our enemies will be defeated. And we will continue enjoying the life in our land, and the process of gathering exiles will be finished. It's very important for us that all the time we'll make cheshbon nefesh about how it happened that one of us killed our leader. So it's a huge crime, which the lessons from which we have to keep with us for thousands of years. And the Jewish tradition gave us the way to do it, to fast. And that's why I was one who was against Oslo from the few weeks after it was signed. I wrote my first article, and I continue to be against one. And I'm the one who believed that it's one of the biggest tragedies, the murder of Rabin. And I fast, and I hope one day our rabbis will make this wise decision and will turn it into the fast for all our people.
So the thing that he was most famous for at that moment and when he was shot was the Oslo peace process. You're a critic of that early on, and nevertheless, you're so traumatized by this huge crime that you feel that we need to fast.
Because I think we have to separate whether Rabin was for peace Oslo or against Oslo is absolutely irrelevant. The fact that there is one of us decides that he is a god, he can decide what is good for Jewish people or not. And if Jewish people chose Rabin as a leader, I will correct it. I will correct their choice. And decides to kill our leader, that's the biggest crime against Jewish people which could be done by Jew. And we should remember it and make our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren to remember about it. And I don't know the better way. In fact, Jewish tradition gives us the best way how to keep in our memory for thousands of years ahead by fasting.
By fasting. So as we contemplate what it means to fast for someone with whom we disagreed quite vehemently, we learn the power of democracy, the power of unity, the power of family, and the great gift of the Jewish people that we're never alone. We're always one united people. Even when we fight, even when we argue, we also look out for one another. This is Gil Troy with Natan Sharansky in Jerusalem.